I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to a regular session of the Goldendale City Council for January 3rd, 2023. I have an email from Lauren asking to be excused from this meeting. Do we have a motion to excuse Lauren?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to excuse Councilmember Lauren Nager from attending this regular session on January 3rd, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we're working on the new agenda. And so you'll notice the closed public comment deals only with agenda items. And then lower down on item 12, the open public comment is on any other topic that you want. So if there's anyone for closed public comment on agenda items right now, whether online or here in the room, please come forward. Hearing none, we'll move on from that particular public comment. We don't have a public hearing scheduled, but for tonight, we have the agenda and consent agenda that we need to have approved. And when you approve this, you approve every item. And it's your right to do as you need to on anything that you have questions on. With that, do we have a motion on the agenda and the consent agenda?
What was your comment?
Well, we're finding out, I've gotten something new for the mayor to do from now on. You probably aren't going to like it that much. But when we do report of officers, I'm going to have a packet of maybe a page or two or a copy of RCW, something that council members need to be aware of. Things such as quorum and what the rules are on having a quorum and being in public as a quorum. That gets dicey. But one of the things is that the council, whenever you approve the agenda, you're approving everything down there. If you disagree with something and you don't think you need to discuss anything on that or whatever it is, then the council can say, we want this amendment or we want this change in the agenda, and you can exclude or you can include even something in addition. So that's all that's about.
So if there is a question regarding something later on the agenda that has to do with spending,
Right.
then we probably shouldn't approve the agenda until we discuss that.
Well,
You're not approving all the
Or-
items on the agenda. You're just approving the items that you're going to discuss on the agenda. Or
The subject.
you can, the subject. You can add to the agenda. You can delete topics off the agenda if you want. You can add if you want. That's all you're doing.
but if we approve the agenda, we're going to go through it, all of it, which is normal business.
It's not a vote for items on the agenda, it's just a vote to have the agenda.
That's it. And if there's something for or against that you want to add or take off, you have that opportunity.
Okay.
That's all that's about.
Oh, Mayor, I move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda and the consent agenda for this city council session. Any questions or comments or discussions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. The first item on the agenda after the agenda has been approved is the presentations. And we have a presentation application processed by Dennis Schroeder. He met all the deadlines to be put on the agenda. And so that's presentation. If you want to come forward, Dennis, and make your presentation. We have a copy of it in the agenda, or at least a copy of what we need to talk about.
Okay, and basically I just want to start out mentioning something for the record, so I don't have to constantly repeat myself. During this presentation, when I refer to the chamber, I'm referring to the Greater Goldendale Area Chamber of Commerce. When I refer to the city, of course I'm referring to the city of Goldendale. When I use the word budget or budgets, I'm referring to the tourism budgets, not the whole budget for the city. When I use the word funding, I'm referring to tourism funding. And I may not necessarily use all the correct terms that the council is accustomed to hearing, so don't hesitate to ask me for clarification if you need to, and I'll do the best I can to describe what I'm referring to. I don't.
We want to limit this to just 10 minutes if possible.
As far as what? My presentation?
The presentation, yeah.
The whole presentation
As
is,
best we can, yes.
is that a new thing or what? I don't recall that before.
It's trying to control how much time is used. It's not a limitation on your speech, it's a limitation on the amount. So you may want to hit the highlights and do it the way you want to.
Yeah. Okay, basically I wanted to know about what the city's biggest tourism funding recipient, the chamber, was doing with funds they received as reimbursements. As I understood the tourism funding process, as explained by Larry Bellamy, the tourism funding is a reimbursement program to aid the boosting of tourism. He said you needed solid records as a proof of your expenses in order to get reimbursed, as I understood him. I made a public records request for the Chamber's records on tourism spending with the city on December 7th of 2021, asking for records to date regarding tourism funding paid to the Chamber in 2021, and was surprised to find out there wasn't any proof of expenses. I actually thought this was an oversight, so I went back to the city and asked about it, and basically was told there wasn't any. I sent an email to Larry Bellamy asking him to verify that was the case, and I wanted a letter in writing, and basically I ended up with the letter that you see from the city's attorney over in Yakima, which basically said there are no receipts. Anyway, the problem I have is that the chamber supplied invoices on a spreadsheet for what they did turn in, and the problem I have is those invoices are created internally. They're not actually invoices from suppliers, service providers, or whatever. I didn't consider that to really meet what the intent of the application, which basically page 5 of the 2021 chamber application says when the project is complete, the applicants will complete and return the report with original receipts and documents for reimbursement. So that was explained to all of us. Page 6 of the chamber's contract in 2021 has a portion that says audit. And in that portion there, it says that basically the chamber or anybody is required to keep sufficient evidence of their expenses for a period of 3 years following the final settlement of agreement. So I feel like that those should basically still be there. I made records requests relating to the city chambers, or the chamber's city tourism funding for the years of 2017 through 2021, the city had indicated there were no supplier generated receipts for the chamber in that 5-year period as well. And I don't believe that their internal invoices and spreadsheets created by the chamber are sufficient proof of expenses. If I could get you just want you to take one of these and pass it around. It's an updated version of what I supplied earlier because I was able to get more information and I didn't really get very much warning that this meeting was coming, which is different than a lot of years. Anyway, tourism funding, when you get this, you'll see that the city of Goldendale had budgeted years for the city starting in 2017, and the chamber was given a $25,000 budget. They used $13,000. They left $12,000 unused. And it's on down the line. 2018 was left with $23,000 unused. 2019 was $13,000. 20 was, which is odd because 20 was the pandemic year. They had the least amount left over of only $4,200. In 2021 they had $7,500. They also it also shows how much the county has given them for funding each year, and as you can see in 2021 they got $66,500 and they left almost $45,000 unused. I don't really think that that's efficient as far as my concern with the city is that you're continually giving a budget to the chamber and they're not using it. That's almost $60,000 in a 5-year period of time. I don't think it's fair to do that to the other applicants that are coming in and asking for money, and I know it's a compromise thing, so you're having to short everybody something, and yet they're leaving this money on the table. And that doesn't seem right to me. And the fact that there are no receipts basically tells me that I don't feel like the tourism committee is actually looking at anything, because if they had checked to see what these tourism recipients or the tourism funding recipients are doing with their work, they would have pulled those receipts to see what was going on, and that obviously didn't happen. And so basically, I guess what you're telling me is I have no time to ask questions of the council. Is that correct?
Presentations normally are presenting information. If you want to ask questions and the council's free to open to answer them, that's fine.
Okay, well, you guys did ask me to produce an agenda, which I did, and I did specifically say that that I had questions that I wanted to ask. So I guess the first one I would like to know is, has the city asked the chamber to update their receipts?
Their current receipts or from the past?
From the past, because I know the current ones are done, because I presented this problem to Larry Bellamy last year, and then he told me earlier in 2022 that the city would be requiring receipts from the chamber from that time forward. It does not help to be able to go back and look at what the expenses were in the previous years. And your contract reads that all of us have to hang on to these receipts for 3 years. They produce receipts to the county. When I looked into what they've been doing at the county, on the county end with their tourism funding, they had receipts. So that showed me that the chamber could definitely do receipts, they just weren't doing them for the city. I don't know how far back this problem goes, to be honest with you, because, I mean, I've been doing this since 2010. As my job at Goldendale Motorsports, we were always providing receipts. We thought that's what everybody was supposed to do. And that was the indication that we were told right from the start.
Right.
And anyway, I'm just shocked at the whole program, basically. And I feel like that at this point that Pat told me that I needed to tell you what I wanted for a resolution of these problems that basically I haven't hardly touched on, basically, but I would like to suggest that that the city do an audit of the chamber for all the years allowable through their contract, and the audit would need to include receipts or other actual proof of expenses claimed and include bank records where applicable, showing items paid by the chamber that were claimed as reimbursed expenses for tourism. Any reimbursements that are not substantiated and do not meet the state law as required tourism expenses would need to be repaid back into the tourism funding by the city. State law is clear regarding what the funds are to be used for. I am requesting any future tourism funding of the chamber be held back until they pass the audit. To be clear, I'm not suggesting that the 2023 tourism contract for the chamber be denied. I'm just saying that the payment should be held back till this problem can be worked through. I also would like the budget committee to look at reimbursement records of the latest funded year when reviewing new applications for the coming year. I would like to hear, or I'd like to have the budget committee trained better by the city administrator or somebody else qualified to explain what they should be looking at prior to making recommendations for the applicants' budgets. I don't think that my public records requests have been unreasonable. They're pretty straightforward. They ask for proof of what the funds were spent on. I think it has proved that, I think it's been proved that nobody from the tourism side of the city has been paying attention to where the money was used. Otherwise, they would have noticed the lack of accountability, or in other words, receipts or invoices. And again, an invoice generated by the chamber themselves saying, we the chamber want money for visitor information center or whatever that is not a receipt from a supplier. I feel that everybody is supposed to show what they're using the funds on, and I understand that they have internal expenses in their building that. I'm not saying that that's not okay. I'm just saying that it needs to be justified. Payroll can be tracked. Any of that can be tracked. I get that. Advertising, everything else, I mean, we all have to do it. And December of 2021, Steve Johnson brought up this problem, basically saying that he didn't feel that the chamber was being held to the same standards as everybody else. And I don't see where that even really got looked into. Am I out of time?
When we do tourism funding that you receive is for a specific event, 2 of them. Same with anybody else, but on the chamber's side, the reason they get so much money, that covers all their activities, and operating a public tourism center is a part of building up tourism and so
Oh, I
on.
totally agree with that. I never said that it isn't. All I'm saying is accountability. That's what I'm getting at, is accountability. Whatever they're running, whatever they're doing, whether it's a home and garden show or running their facility out there, advertising, whatever they're doing, everybody should have to provide proof of what they spent the money on. It's that simple.
So currently they do.
Currently, yes, they do, and I know that, and the only reason that they do that is because I went after the public records request starting in December of 2021, and Larry told me at the start of 2022 that from there on, the chamber would comply, which I think is great. It doesn't answer to the rest of it. You know, they should still have to comply with record keeping, and your guys' own contract says they're supposed to have it. It says that you can ask for it. I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm not saying that they can't run their facility. Obviously, they should. So all it gets down to accountability. That's all we're talking about here is accountability. Everybody else has to do it or should be doing it. I don't really even know at this point how many other tourism recipients have been doing half a job or less or whatever on their accounting to the city. I have no idea at this point. I know that I've dug back 5 years and this is what I found. And I'm also really appalled at the fact that, as I mentioned, that there's some $60,000 that could have been used for somebody else. That the chamber didn't even use. This is according to your guys' records. And I don't think it's fair to the other recipients. I don't think it's fair to the lodging tax owner or the lodging owners that have to collect the tax and do the paperwork and send it in. It's not right to them either. They did their job. It's accountability, and there just doesn't seem to be any that I can see. And
So, Mayor, if I may,
Sure.
I think Mr. Schroeder brings some concerns that are, I don't know if legitimate or not, because I don't have all the facts, and he's done pretty good research, but I do find some concerns with the items he brings forth, though I would suggest either having, I don't know if this would be like an executive session kind of thing, or at least a workshop on reviewing the process. I know with our current staff, they're coming in and keeping records from where they've taken over.
Right.
Do you have concerns with the lack of records? Because there is state law that requires records be kept. So that is another concern, but I think it would be, with the presentation and the concerns, to just follow up and not let it go by without any action would be better served in a workshop.
I think in a workshop.
And then that way,
more public for my-
staff can
yeah.
provide more information on that.
And we'll also be asking the county to present their records so we can see a comparison of some of the things they should have sent reports to us. May have been tangled in with the other things.
Yeah, and I do find concerned with the funds not being spent. If that is the case, I would have to inquire of our staff to confirm those numbers, but if that is the case where the funds are not being spent, I do agree that can be followed up on future years, that if you don't spend this much, don't ask for that much, right? And that way other agencies, but I again, this is what his presentation covers, so I would like to give our staff time to confirm or provide additional information as to the presentation.
And when that's worked out, we'll organize a workshop, a council workshop, that'll be open to the public, and it'll address this.
But either, yeah, and either way, we need to get either a confirmation that Mr. Schroeder is correct and future actions, or documentation and an answer that we find some of the items are incorrect. I would hope that Mr. Schroeder at that time would accept, because it has been ongoing every
Yeah,
year,
it has been.
questions. But I think with a work group and looking at it in depth and maybe adjusting our policies, then we can settle this and we can move forward from there on. And address whatever concerns are validated.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Schroeder, and the Goldendale Motorsports, just great car shows you put on. Really looking forward to next year's, but I'd like to speak to a few things. Our responsibility as the event committee and the city council is to award the lodging tax funds. The purpose is to provide funding to eligible organizations or groups for the purpose of positively impacting tourism in the city. Now, most of that money goes to the Chamber of Commerce because they do the most, you know. The Chamber of Commerce operates the visitor center open year-round with both paid staff and volunteers. They're there promoting events and local businesses all year. The Chamber of Commerce works with the city to promote and do most of the work for community days. The Chamber puts on the very successful Home and Garden Show, as well as the new event coming in September, the Art Fest. The Chamber provides marketing support to interested local and other organizations like the Observatory, the Oregon Trail Rally, the Bluegrass Festival, the list goes on and on. The Chamber of Commerce has a new database website with event management and business directory capabilities. The Chamber works to secure state and federal grants for the purpose of promoting tourism, businesses, and jobs, as well as city beautification for people who visit here and live here both. You know, simply put, in regards to the tourism funds, the biggest bang we get for the buck is to fund the Chamber of Commerce as much as we can. I appreciate the concerns on record keeping and everything and like that, but the proof is in the pudding on what they do. We see the fruits of what happens from them. We see how they're improving and making improvements on things. There might have been problems in the past, but I'm not really interested in the past as much as I am what's happening right now and where they're headed right now. And it's undeniable that when you look at the dollars, the biggest bang we get for the buck on these tourism dollars is the Chamber of Commerce.
exactly.
They get the most of the money, right? But
They also do that.
they do the most, you know what I mean? We're talking about, they have an actual place where people can go and visit and call, and a great website, and the list goes on and on of the benefits that the city receives from the Chamber, the businesses get from the Chamber, the events, all the other groups. I mean, the relationship that the city has with the Chamber is one of the most valuable relationships we have going. And the amount of money that they get from different sources is great too. It's not like they're asking the city of Goldendale to fund their entire operation, you know, but for the money that comes from that lodging tax, that's the best money we can spend right there. I mean, I appreciate all the other applicants, but to say we should withhold any money from the Chamber because of past receipts, you know, they were turning in what they were asked to turn in pretty much. I mean, you know, they're doing what's asked of them, and I think we should fully fund as much as we possibly can the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, living here my whole life and participating in events for 30 years. I've worked at the Chamber lots, and I know what they do. The proof is in the pudding on what they do. You just have to look at their application that they have, everything that they have going on in there, and it's well worth the money they get from the lodging tax.
Mayor, I agree with what Dave says. The Chamber has done a lot, and they're continually doing a lot. They got a lot of future ideas of what they want to do for the city of Goldendale.
And they initiate a lot of.
Yes, they do, and so I just, they're on a roll, and I really want to support them as much as possible. I think the city council should, so anyway.
Very good. Steve?
I don't think there's any argument here
No.
what the chamber does do. And the fact that they do a lot, in fact, they do the lion's share regarding all these other groups, let's say. But the concern that Dennis has brought up is very valid relative to the overall process.
Mhm.
And that part of that process is accounting and accountability. And it's obvious, I recognized it some time ago, and I've had lengthy discussions with Dennis regarding this, about past practices and the lack of accounting. And that's not acceptable anywhere, anytime, whether it's with us as individuals, or a government entity, or a business. That accounting is
Key.
absolutely necessary, and the books have got a balance. My wife drives me crazy. She is a bookkeeper, and I don't mind winging it. I know how much money's out there within $100, let's say, and I'm good with that. But this is not supposed to run that way. And I am concerned about, in the past, when there is requests, whether it be for the chamber or not, this is primarily focused on the chamber. We've never been privileged to know about a balance from the previous year when they make a request. And here is data that's showing a pretty good chunk of change left over.
And it creates a good question in applications or in reports.
And yes, and therein lies the accounting.
Mm.
And that information, that data, is absolutely necessary for the committees to make their decisions
Sure.
when we're allocating funds, without a doubt. And that's what the main concern is here. Like I say, I don't think it's the fact that the chamber busts their butt, because they do.
They really do.
They do a great job. But you need receipts.
And
And they have stepped up to the plate.
yeah, they actually
Acknowledges that finally, after a certain amount of pressure, they have stepped up to the plate. Definitely, I agree, we need a workshop, we need to look into this, we need to shake it out and come to some sort of terms regarding these past practices and the past funds, especially ones left on the table. But from here on out, I think we've got it under control, hopefully, but it takes vigilance and it takes staying on top of it. Don't drop the ball. Don't get lackadaisical about it. So, as far as withholding the funds, I think that would be counterproductive at this point. I really do. That's the wrong kind of leverage, I think, not appropriate leverage. Not that it isn't used in the political world when it comes to appropriations, but we're above that. I think we're above that. And the fact that we have recognized, or Dennis has presented the data to where, wow,
it's convincing.
we've recognized there was a problem, for sure. And so I think this workshop that's been suggested, I think we can shake this out and come to some acceptable terms regarding this.
Good suggestion. I think I'd like to say one thing on this. When we do the workshop, I think the events committee should review the whole application so that we build in these very specific, clarify those points that have been abused, put exactly what's required for any event. I think that will help us to solve the problem across the board and make it a better functioning process of giving money for a specific activity.
And in regards to that, relative to that, wording is very, very critical. And I think the term event needs to be addressed.
Sure.
Mayor, I agree with everybody here that even though the topic was more added towards the Chamber of Commerce, I think you can exchange that for the city of Goldendale, right? Because the policy on how these funds are distributed is the city's. The process in which things are documented and kept is on the city. When the applicants turn in the receipts, if it's not appropriate, then it should be corrected at the moment, right, before we cut out a check. So I think that's more on the city than the applicants. And the other thing is, I'd like, before the end of the night, if we can schedule that workshop, I will follow, because this has been discussed for the last several years that I've been on council. We've discussed it, we've requested a updated policy, probably a list of items that the applicants need to meet and turn in, and things that are gonna be reviewed, so these guys have been around for a while, they know the process, they know what to turn in, but at the same time, if we have new applicants, new groups coming
They
in,
don't necessarily.
they need to know the process, right? The chamber has figured out what they need, what is acceptable, or what the city takes, right? And so we need to correct that if needed. But I think because our policy has created enough question for several years, like I said, we need to have that scheduled so it doesn't get dropped, and it, can't let go of it. And we should not require or not put Mr. Schroeder in a position where he has to come back again next year and bring up the same questions like he did the year before, like he's doing now. So if we can get that settled, make it, black and white, here's straight up policy, everybody has to meet. Our staff is figuring out their job, this whole year, the last few months, they're figuring it out. So with a new policy that they take part of making,
Right.
then they can know exactly, if somebody, Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Schroeder turns in a handmade receipt and says, I want this money, well, we know it's not gonna be acceptable, right? Turning a receipt that you paid somebody else for that service, or payroll, or whatever it is. But then it's black and white, and we don't have this ongoing, because has been an ongoing issue. The chamber happens to be the topic. In previous meetings, it was discussed that there's some previous history there between the parties, but I think it should be equal to everybody else, and everybody else should be held accountable, and I think it's on us, and we've allowed it to happen.
It's tough to compare the Chamber of Commerce with some of the other groups that are putting on one-day events, You're kind of comparing apples and oranges, expecting the exact same forms to be filled out by, a car show that lasts one day, as opposed to a Chamber of Commerce that operates all year round and working in so many facets. That's the challenge there.
But like if you applied for a federal grant, which I don't recommend anybody do,
No,
there is so much paperwork, and it's quarterly paperwork, and you have to turn in receipts, and you have to show and prove, and then at the end of the year, you have to do it all over again, even though you already submitted them. So whatever the policy is, if it's straightforward for whoever, whatever amount they apply, you know what you're getting into.
Transparency.
If you don't want to go through the process, the chamber, sure, they're getting a bigger chunk. They would probably want to go through the process. A smaller group, if it's too complicated, might say, we don't want the $2,000, thank you very much. But at least it's equal and fair for everybody. And then we can move on.
Dave, I understand what you're saying as far as the chamber and, doing a lot of work, different activities and whatnot, and I have never denied that. And I think it's more along the lines of what Steve said, well, Phil said, that this gets down to accountability, and that's all I'm after, and I think that's what's owed to the public, basically, is accountability. When you get government running out of, or not being accountable for itself, to me, that's just not right. And that's what I see here. I mean, yeah, it's a small scale on this city's whole total business package. I mean, I get that, but it's still an item, basically. And you're addressing your comment about the chamber doing, work year-round and GMA doing a one-day car show. I just want you to take into consideration that those one-day car shows take a heck of a lot of work over an entire period of time. We've already started advertising, and we had to have stuff sent in as early as October of last year, and it will continue on. And if you don't put the effort into it and the planning and all that, it takes hours and hours and hours to do. If you don't put it in, you won't see the results that everybody seems to see and comment on and compliment us on, and that it'll all go away. We try to just drop it into a simple little one-day deal.
Excellent
Won't
point.
work.
Excellent point.
So all about quality. So, if you want to get people coming here, and that was my understanding, is the tourism funding purpose was to get people to Goldendale, and it takes effort, and it takes advertising out of the area, which I stressed last year, and at this same time, and I said, give us more money so we could advertise out of the area, out of state, further into Oregon, further up into Washington. This year we're asking for money to get into the Vancouver-Portland market, preferably for community days. We want to get into the Seattle market for Maryhill, because we keep track of where our people are coming from. And we're looking to do what everybody said they wanted done. And I think we have been doing that. But anyway, I appreciate what everybody said, but anyway, so yeah, I guess I think you know how I feel about it all.
We will announce the time for that workshop. Will it be before the next city council meeting, or in a month or so after that? It's going to take a while to prepare how we're going to do that, and particularly to use that application form to see what could improve the process to start with. And then we'll probably be asking you some questions on that as well.
Well, I'm glad to help.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council first? Thank you. Well, in 10 minutes, but it was worthwhile.
Good job, Dennis.
Thank you.
The next item is department reports, and we'll begin with Public Works. Pat Munyon.
So the Public Works crews, primarily over the last 2 weeks, has just been dealing with slick roads, some general maintenance on equipment, and through the cold snap, I think they said they had 33 broken water lines and meters throughout the community. And some of those have caused pretty significant damage to buildings. The dollar, this is a little off topic of the Public Works, but currently the Dollar Tree is shut down by the city of Red Tag.
Dollar General.
Or Dollar General. Red tagged until they meet certain criteria. Their building flooded, some of that water got on food. The health department's gonna have to determine what they're gonna have to do with that food. And making sure the building is completely dried out. They when we went through there and inspected it, they still had a lot of water under the shelving, and that's just gonna cause mold.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to get in there and clean that. Our other concern was, anytime a electrical wire gets, exposed to water or covered by water, it has to be replaced, and that's not our call, so, we've called in the state electrical inspector to come in and look at that. And once we get authorization from all those elements have been taken care of, plus the employees, it's been brought to our attention, the employees have been working up there without bathroom facilities that have not been working for several months, that's not okay. And they've been working without cooling in the summer and heating in the winter, that's part of the reason why the water lines broke up there. So those things are being resolved right now.
This is out of the dollar store?
Yes,
Well, it should-
the Dollar General. Other than that, just a quick question for Berto. So, I need you to come in and help me set up a new Sam's account. We can't access the other one. What's that?
Just add to the list, go ahead.
Yeah, we tried for 2 days.
Going back and forth.
Yeah. In front of you, I handed you a shoreline management plan. This is a draft. If you get a chance to review it over the next couple of weeks, please provide me any comments. Then I will send those comments, put them all into one document and send back to them so that they can address any concerns you may have. We will be having to send out some notice here. I tried to call him back today to find out exactly when, but public participation in this process, we will have to be holding several public meetings, probably at least 2. And we also want to get this out on the website so it can be reviewed, the draft document on the website as well. We have to go through that process, and then this will also come back at some point for adoption through a public hearing process, and then move into adoption at that point. But I don't have those timelines. There's a semi-schedule in there, but it's not locked in stone. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve?
I apologize, I missed the first part of your presentation. Did you include the senior center? Because I understand.
I understand that they have an issue, but we haven't been down there and looked at that yet. I didn't know there was an issue till the day down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hopefully you can get to it sooner than later, because that provides activity for a lot of our seniors.
Yeah, what Jeff's concern was is when he went up to the store, the general store, he was really concerned with the safety of the employees being inside the building and the condition it was in.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Dollar General, right?
The Dollar General,
Okay,
yeah.
because we also have a general store.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the Dollar
Which
General.
would hate to put the wrong one in.
But yeah, so he was really concerned with the safety of the employees and the conditions they were having to work in there.
So what's it going to take to address the senior center?
I'll talk to Jeff tomorrow and see if he's looked at it. I have no idea if he's inspected or not.
They had a broken pipe was the only thing and we shut off their water.
Right.
So that's all that we typically do for that.
That building flooded for 3 days.
I know.
So I don't know about the senior center. I was talking about
The Dollar General.
The Dollar General.
But
Well, it'd be nice to move on, get some motion regarding the senior center.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Pat?
Public Works meeting
Oh, tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah. What time do you want to do it tomorrow? 3?
5 a.m.
3 o'clock?
Oh, I'm not on that committee.
Well, I would actually be here at 5 a.m., so
Mine?
Earlier the better,
I am,
or?
I am on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty well free. In the morning I'm busy, but then I guess in the afternoon, we could be, if you wanna meet at 3 o'clock, that'd be fine, or 4,
Well, 3 will work for me,
okay,
because we
okay.
should be done by 3, shouldn't we, Mayor?
Oh, yes, yeah,
Oh, that's Wednesday, though.
We'll have to check with Lauren.
Oh, that's tomorrow
Tomorrow's
afternoon, we have interview. We have to be on the radio tomorrow afternoon, is that correct?
yeah, at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's
So
about
I have training in the morning, then I have to go to that, then 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock should be.
Yeah, 3
Okay.
o'clock will work.
We'll have to call
Okay.
Lauren and see if that's good.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
on there as well.
I'll just let them know.
We'll hear now from Jay Hensley, police chief. Jay,
How's that?
Hey, Hensley.
Jay, not Hensley.
Holy smoke.
Keep the gun in the.
Talk about slaughtering the last name.
If I get a ticket, I'm gonna complain like that.
All right, just real quick, some items here. For 2022, our cases ended at 3,276. So if you want to break that down, we averaged 273 cases per month, 68.2 cases per week, 9.7 cases per day on an average. So it's been a very, very busy year. This is one of the highest numbers we've ever had for law enforcement on these cases. There will be a breakdown, but based on everything that's going on and the limited staff, those numbers will come and break down those cases to give you an idea of what stood out more than that.
That was my question.
Yeah. Also, about a month ago, there was information we received from WASPIC, which is the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, that the state's released money for training for law enforcement for all agencies in the state. We're allocated $10,000 for use of force training and de-escalation training intervention costs due to legislative bills, and we received that check today. So we have that. For the open admin assistant up at the police department, we have 5 applicants, and scheduling interviews will be starting next week. And that's all I have at this point in time.
Thank you, chief. If I'd have said gov, I would still be in trouble. The Goldendale Fire Department, Juliana, what does that?
So we ended last year with 185 calls. 91 of those were EMS, 94 fire, 8 of which were structure related. We had 12 mutual aid calls with Rural 7, and I believe one of those was Wishram. Sorry, lost my spot here. Our average from dispatch to en route time, we've been averaging for fire-related calls about 5 minutes and 25 seconds, EMS-related calls 6 minutes and 34 seconds. So that's from our page to getting a crew there and being out of the station. Average on-scene time, fire 9 minutes and 36 seconds, and EMS 9 minutes and 51 seconds. So for a volunteer agency, pretty good times. And the other thing is AEDs. We're working on, we currently do not have AEDs in all of our rigs, so that is one of our goals we're working towards, getting one in every rig. We are working on replacing 2 right away. 2 of the ones that we currently have have been discontinued, so once our pads expire, we cannot replace them, so those are going to have to be updated sooner than later. I think that was it.
That's a defibrillator you're talking about? Okay, yeah.
That plan includes things for other areas like City Hall. Do not put it in my office, I told you. I don't want that. But thank you so much. I don't know that there's any agency, not only in this city, but probably in this county or country, that pays attention to the calls quite as much as your group does. They're really amazing. You've got their attention beautifully. Thank you. We'll go on now to our council business. I don't think we had anybody else for department reports. I think that was all done. The council business is the tourism committee recommendations, and I'll turn that over to Pat.
Yeah, the committee has submitted their applications for discussion and review. We've actually put all the applications within the packet for the council members to review as well. Did you want to present do you want to present the list, or Andy, or did you want me to present the list?
You want me to present the list?
Yeah.
All right. Just from the email that you made, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the event committee has come up with these numbers for the events to be funded. The Brighter Goldendale Christmas, $10,000. The GMA Show and Shine, $5,500. The GMA Concourse de Maryhill, $5,500. The Chamber of Commerce, $45,000. The Goldendale Pride, $1,700. And the Abate of Washington, $13,000. You can see all the applications in the packet.
For a total money awarded amount of $80,700.
Say that number again?
$80,700.
And that email's in your.
Does the council have questions or comments of members of the events committee for one, or this particular report? All the applications are here, and these are the funds that were awarded, not, they requested more than that, which is normal. We've had that in every year. So,
Yes, I would like to make a comment.
good, please.
I've given this a lot of thought, believe me, and this is one of the most, the hardest presentations I've ever had to make. And I'll start it out. This country's at war. It's not with a foreign adversary, but it's from within. It's a cultural war that's fought on many fronts. There's a systematic assault by a radical progressive element to erode and destroy our traditional values and morals. One of the weapons of choice is sex. More specifically, sexual orientation and gender identity, which have been weaponized and politicized. Tonight I'd like to focus on the notion of pride. We have two groups that have requested funding for their particular causes. One being the Kiwanis, who have faithfully and consistently placed numerous American flags around our community on numerous occasions for decades. That flag represents the fundamental principles that this country was founded on. The vast majority of citizens in this country, and indeed around the world, view this symbol with enormous pride and respect. And let's not forget the countless lives lost and incalculable amounts of blood spilled to protect those ideas and principles. And they were denied. They were denied. I find that real troubling. And now we have the Gay Pride organization, club, whatever. They've also got a flag, and they allude to the notion of pride, but is primarily self-directed. With all due respect to the local folks that identify with the LGBT community and our friends and neighbors. They are nevertheless charter members of a much larger organization that sponsors and promotes such things as drag queen performances in grade schools and libraries, while those local institutions deny faith-based presentations, psychological manipulation and forced physical and chemical programs relative to gender identity for children. I am not anti-gay. I have known and had very good relations with gay members. I have relatives that identify with LGBT. It's always been a very respectful relationship. But what I am against, I'm against things such as I just mentioned. I respect any individual's choice of sexual identity, allowing that they aren't coerced and they don't force the issue on somebody that doesn't agree. Furthermore, I am not in favor of using public funds of any kind to promote an agenda that's as divisive and contentious as this at any level. At this point, I don't know if it would be appropriate, but I would like to make a motion.
I'd actually like to make some comments real quick, Steve.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
I've already mentioned that the application, Quanta's application, was denied. Now, what I seen was pretty minor technicalities relative to what I just said. And again, we've already talked about reviewing, which I think is absolutely necessary, especially after this situation. But I would like to make a motion that the council approve the requested appropriations of the Kiwanis, which is well within our authority, and that is spelled out in the disclaimer. The City of Goldendale reserves the right in its sole discretion to fund or not fund any particular project or program. Project or program. There's that play on words again. We talk about events, okay, for which an application been submitted. The city is a sole judge of its obligation to fund any particular project or program, regardless of its merits, under these factors. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll start with, the Pride event is about bringing people together. You have the right to not go, just as much as I have the right to help put this event on. That event brought 350 people in 2021, and well over 200 people in 2022. And we're planning this next year's also, obviously. The goal of the funds from this money is to bring people to Goldendale. Both years we had people from Portland, Vancouver, Seattle, Yakima, Tri-Cities, all up and down the gorge. That's the point of this fund. Now, to talk about not funding that event, and I'm sorry, your comments were very, in my eyes, hateful. Very hateful and hurtful, not only to me, but other people in this community. 12 years ago, I came out. I was in fear, and to be honest, tonight, this is one of the examples of why I'm glad that I have gained my voice in the last couple of years, especially helping put it on Pride. Because 12 years ago, I would have never been brave enough to speak like this in front of anyone about my own sexuality. So I feel attacked by you, Steve. To be completely honest, I'm trying to hold it together because I'm so angry right now with you. And with people's viewpoints like you have tonight is hurtful to people. 12 years ago, I was out on Highway 97, going 75 miles an hour, wanting to wreck my car into a semi. because I wanted to end my life because I was gay and I was afraid to come out. The last 2 years, I have learned a lot of stories in this community of the same thing. People wanted to kill themselves. We have brought joy to this community, putting this event on, smiles on people's faces, and that's what Pride is about. And I encourage you to go to the event and see what it's about. It's not what about you're talking about. It's about music, it's about food, it's about community. It's about getting people together and have a good night and celebrating who they are without being persecuted. The American flag is our flag of our country of freedom. It's my freedom to celebrate my sexuality without being persecuted. And that's all I have to say.
Andy, people are persecuted for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Not just because of sexual orientation, lots of reasons.
So you want to take away my right to have an event that celebrates happiness and joy and love.
I am not disagreeing or saying you don't have that right. Not in the least
But
bit.
you don't want to help fund, the city can't help fund an event?
Like I said, like it or not, this is not fair. This is not fair to, let's just say,
And actually-
the local community here, which I feel, maybe I've been in the closet here, but I feel like the local folks that identify LGBT have been accepted reasonably well.
The last couple of years maybe, after I've done Pride, I can get a whole bunch of people in this room that's going to tell you different.
After the last couple of years, well,
I have
In my
brought,
mid-70s,
myself and our
Andy,
Pride
I
group
have been
have
watching-
brought, hold on. My Pride group that we have created a nonprofit, and we have created a lot more awareness in this town. And there has been a lot more acceptance in the last couple of years because of the Pride event. Before that, not so much. I walk down the street, if I have a partner with me and I wanted to hold his hand going down the street, I have to fear something getting thrown at me. I have to fear persecution for it. You can walk down the street with your wife right now and nothing said. I have to watch my back every day. Not just here in Goldendale, the state and in this country. That's why Pride is celebrated. And I'm sorry, but you would know this and other people would know this if they did their reading and did why Pride was started. It was started because there was a bar in New York City, Stonewall. People would go in there and they would get arrested for being with and around people that they wanted to be around. And it caused riots. And they finally stood up and they said, we're not going to take this anymore. And that's why they celebrate Pride every June. So I encourage you to go home and do your facts and read stuff and learn about Pride. Because what you're talking about is not what Pride is about.
That's why.
And the Kiwanis does not follow, we wanted to fund it, ask David and Ellie,
Right.
by the rules of how the money is supposed to be distributed. And I'm sorry, I mean, I agree, the flags are great, and we want to find a way to fund that. But through those funds, it does not follow the guidelines.
Mayor? Yes, if I can.
Thank you.
So I'll jump in here. Understand that everybody has an opinion. However, our personal opinions need to be set aside a little bit. And understanding that, I think, first thing before we move forward is understand that Goldendale Pride, as Steve has identified them as a LGBT group, is a protected class. Sexuality is a protected class under federal law. So any decision made against that group on the fact of sexuality is going to be breaking the law. So just so we're clear, if it does not meet the requirements of the city for an event, so be it, but just on those facts. I will say, and I will add my personal opinion, I guess you could say I'm an ally of Pride, it's the words that the group uses, because I support anybody that wants to come out and wants to be who they are. sexuality, preference, or identification is one of those words or terms that, or groups of people that seek to be accepted in their community by their peers, by their friends, and those they interact with. Just the same way that I'm very involved in the disabilities community, and that is another group that is constantly seeking to be accepted into any group and, you know, be part of the community and be allowed to go and play in the playground like other kids or other adults and interact. So with that being said, I will agree that it is a right, I think, that a lot of people take for granted, that you can choose to be who you are in this country. I will say I am a naturalized citizen. I was not born here, but I pridefully made that oath to become a citizen. And here you have me. Why? Because this country accepts people of every social group out there, whatever it is. I would not condone any event that is obscene in nature, whether it be LGBTQ or any other group, because we all know that obscene sexual nature is not specific to one group. Let's face it, it is a humanity problem, right? Whether you identify as a teacher, as gay, as a counselor, as a preacher, whatever it is, sexual obscenity is there. So we cannot put everybody into one group and say they are deviants, right? Those people that want to be deviant can be from any class. They could be from high socioeconomics or low socioeconomics, right? Just like criminals, they can be from all sorts of groups. So let's just take that into consideration. I would say that, and to this topic, I do believe the Kiwanis bring a lot to the community. I think the flags, just like the banners on the street, is part of what makes this community great. We discussed the flower pots a couple years ago, right? And they were on the chopping block because of budget issues. But people spoke up for the flower pots, and we kept the flower pots. Why? Because they are part of Goldendale. They are what makes this community great. When you show up on any holiday and you see the flags out. I don't know if anybody's up that early. I know I'm not, or I'm at work. The flags magically appear on every pole. And when sundown comes, you know, when the sun sets, they disappear and they go somewhere. I don't know. And on occasion, I've seen a truck driving up, putting them up and taking them down. But otherwise, they just magically appear, and they make this community great. It makes stands Goldendale that if you're driving by, this community has pride. And I can't think of the word now, but definitely the pride to be American is there. And I think just like the flower pots, you know, if you're driving by, it's going to bring people back. When the road show, the car show is happening, happens on a holiday weekend. Flags are out there. You could say it's part of that. You know, you have all the guests that come into the road show and see the flags. Community days, flags are there. You know, so I would argue on that for the Kiwanis to replace those flags in a sense of pride that, you know, it's kind of on how you present it, whether they get the money or not. The question would be, where do we take money from and to get to the flags? and I hate to put it on the chamber, but they have the biggest pot that they might be able to spare and do without a couple of $1,000 to get the flags going and be part of that, right? That's the easy solution, or we take $100 from everybody and the chamber another 1,500. I don't know. But I think, sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry.
Mindy has a plan.
Okay. But aside from that, I would just say, you know, to be able to call ourselves American and bring everybody equally and treat everybody equally, we have to start with our own small groups. Whether it be Andy, whether it be my kid coming out, we have to accept everybody for who they are. I'm not gonna accept Andy going topless at the party, but I have been there the last couple of years and there was none of that nonsense. I've seen more nonsense at the bars than at the Pride event. Both have alcohol. And I see more nonsense over there, and I mean, one of the bars has a dancing pole, at least last time I was there. So where do we draw the line, right? But what I would stand for is to accept each other, to accept this, to keep the city from litigation, and to support all the events here. So
Thank you.
that would be my motion. Sorry,
Actually,
long-winded.
criticism I will hear from the mayor will be, oh, you shouldn't have had such a discussion in city council. This is exactly the type of discussions the city needs. It's needed it all the way through, both sides, and for the flags. I'm really concerned that why did Kiwanis get put out of the consideration? I don't know. Because I was a member of Kiwanis, and those flags appear with guys and gals going down
Yeah.
and load them up, put them in pickups and put them where, and it's a big deal. It's a beautiful thing.
And Mayor, one thing I've learned from, my mind is gone, sorry, long day at work. The Legion, one thing that I've learned from the Legion, even when I was in high school, is, you know, the flags need to be taken care of. The flag cannot touch the ground. The flag cannot be tethered. They need to be essentially replaced. You know, you should not be flying a torn flag. That is simply not prideful. But I think if someone in the audience had a suggestion, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to hear what their suggestion is, or maybe they have more money somewhere, I don't know.
It's the council's decision.
Well, Mayor, can I just say a couple things?
Sure.
You know, we talked about the Kiwanis when we were reviewing our application, and, you know, amongst all of us talking, we didn't think that that was part of the tourism fund. We were hoping, Ellie sent an email about it also, we were hoping to try to fund that Kiwanis from maybe somewhere else in our budget. We were gonna have some talks about that. But, you know, if we can squeeze that into this tourism dollars, I'm all for it.
I think we were all for that,
We were all
it's just it
for it.
didn't follow the.
We were just trying to
the
follow
guidelines.
the guidelines, and so anyway, that was the Kiwanis thing, and we'll get that taken care of. And as far as the Pride event, you know, we just had to take a look at the applications and judge them based on their merit. You know, number one, is it a legal event open to everyone? You know, everything that was on there, if you look at the application, they check marked everything you want. You know, as far as, is it a legitimate group with the proven ability to put on the event? We know it is, because they've done it twice, 2 years in a row already. Is it drawing in crowds from out of town? We know it is, because they kept track of their attendance, you know? And so, you know, just based on the merit of the applications, there was no reason to not fund it. So that's where we came up with that. And anyways, that's all for me for now. Yeah, I was talking about the Pride event at the end there.
think what may be a acceptable approach, and I'll depend on Pat to give us some guidance if it's wrong, but I'd like to see us, with whatever this council intends to do on the expenditures for what they've approved, it be accepted if it's the will of the council, but we also need a motion to take this under separate consideration and separate funding. We'll have to work on finding. I think we can get it even from local businesses. I moved here because of the display of flags in the cemetery across from the church I go to. That was an instant decision on my part. That's where I'll go when I'm done. So they're both important parts of what freedom is. Freedom is won by one, freedom is expressed by the other. And we all treasure that. We pledge allegiance to this flag every need. And that's a meaningful pledge. I've never seen that in many countries around the world. They love their flag, they try to honor it, but they have nowhere near the pride and joy that we have as Americans in protecting our flag and standing up for it. It's a big thing. It's a worthwhile thing. But I don't have any more to say. It's up to the council as far as I think there's two things. I think we have this tourism committee recommendation, whether we act on that, whether we modify it, but we also have another motion, I believe, that was from Steve, and that needs to be taken care of as well. And I'm not sure how we need to word it. I heard it, but I didn't write it down. But both of those, when a motion is made in the middle of a discussion, something like this, it has priority to get sorted out or tabled, whatever has to be done. But as far as the work that's been done by the tourism committee, it's been very thorough. It's been well worked, and I think you have a good solution coming out of all the discussions that work for the Kiwanis getting funding, because that's usually used to replace the worn flags and greatly increase the number of flags they put out, which means a whole lot more work for a whole lot fewer members of that club. So, anything, Pat, that you want to add, criticize, or turn upside down?
No, we need to get a motion and get it so we can move on.
Yeah. Okay, your motion was?
My motion was that the council approve the requested appropriation of the Kiwanis.
Okay, with that, okay. Do you have a second?
Can we take it out of that fund, or should we try to fund it through something else?
I think you should fund it through general fund expenditures and donate the flags.
Good idea.
Work.
Yeah, just so we get the funding.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not gonna break the bank.
I'm just sorry, it would be a violation of our requirement of state law to purchase them, because based on the application alone, Steve, the thing is that you're supposed to encourage tourism up to 50 miles away. They presented no numbers of how that's generating any tourism into the community, or people coming here just to drive through and see the flags and spend money. That's the kind of the whole point of tourism dollars. If they can demonstrate that in the future, that's fine, but they didn't demonstrate it this time. But that doesn't mean that the city council can't take general fund money and purchase those flags for a 4th of July event or some other event and donate them to them.
Well, the motion was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And that was pretty bad.
Which do they ask?
Well, this is for US flags? Is that what the?
It's
yeah,
for
you
placing
wanna-
the flags
yeah.
out.
Well, yeah, right, yeah.
I think. you
Well,
talk
it's
about
for-
ownership, they own flags.
Yeah, it's for flag pole repair and replace, $762.
Okay.
So if we
that
could just take
includes
that out of
all
our
those.
general fund, $762 is the amount they have listed here for that.
Is it just the flags or is that the poles?
It's, it says construction, renovation, flag, pole repair, or replace. $762.
And it's that,
I think
we're
they're
talking about
asking.
the poles that go on the light poles?
Yeah.
Individual homes.
And they needed to replace some of the holders that the poles go into.
Okay.
But they're talking about replacing flags though too in that amount, right?
Flag.
Yeah.
I think we're,
Yeah.
If it hasn't been seconded, I will second that part.
So your motion is to approve for that,
To
one is to
approve
come
it.
out of the general fund in the amount of what?
That-
700.
No,
Okay. Oh,
their amount was,
What was the request?
It's the third packet in your packet. It's the third packet.
is $2,388.
$2,380.
So I just need an amount to make sure that we know what we're doing,
$2,388
to come out of the general fund.
to come out of
Fund
the general
Columbus
fund.
is your motion.
that's US flags and
Okay.
poles.
Right,
Yeah.
well,
So,
to be used for what they requested.
Yeah, okay.
and that was by Steve and seconded by,
I guess I'll second that.
And yeah, we intended on working to get that funded from the get-go. It just wasn't to come out of this fund. We wanted it to come out of the general fund, was the gist of it.
Yeah, I did ask Pat if that could absolutely come out of the fund that paid for all those flowers.
Right.
yeah.
The general fund.
I understand.
So that motion is on the floor. We've had a motion and a second. Are there further questions or comments on this particular item, providing the flags and poles put forward by the Kiwanis in their application out of the general fund? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I think that cleared up a difficult spot. Now, we have the motion that we began with, the Tourism Committee recommendations, and that we need a motion to approve those expenditures that you've worked on. Yes.
I will make that motion to approve the events committee recommendations for the events applied for, up to the amount awarded, a total of $80,700 as presented in the email attached to this.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the event committee recommendations for events to be funded with tourism dollars in the amount of $80,700. Any further questions or comments before we vote? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So we have 5 in support and 1 nay in the report. That's fine. It passes. I appreciate everybody's, allowing this discussion to some extent. It's something very important for a community to deal with tough issues like this and deal with them as best we can. We're very often restricted by rules and regulations and laws, but this is something that it exists, both sides, both activities, both groups of people. I think you've done as much as could be done to address it tonight, and I think it'd be better for it. Whether we agree or not with the 2 activities, I think we've done what we could as a city council.
May I?
Yes.
Actually, what I'd like to do is apologize to Andy and any of the other members of the group that are moderate. Just because a person belongs to a fraternity or any particular organization doesn't mean that any individual agrees with all policies. And I realize I painted a delicate picture here with a room. And that's why I commented. It was difficult for me to do that. And I used the gay pride issue to do a comparison with the Kiwanis issue. And like I say, if I've offended anybody, I do apologize.
Thank you, Steve. I'll just comment that I maybe got a little too angry, but it's just, I didn't have a voice 12 years ago. And I'm speaking up for people that can't speak up. And that's my goal, and that's the goal of Pride. So.
I understand, and I respect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you as well, Andy. You expressed yourself, and I think that was worth both sides. So that item has passed. We'll go on now to report of officers, and we'll begin with city council members. And we'll start with Ellie Vacation. Dave Jones.
I've carried on long enough, thank you, Mayor.
Steve.
I agree with Dave.
But I've carried on long enough?
That he's carried on long enough. And, no, I spoke my piece. Thank you, Your Honor.
It's something that should be done in cities. Andy.
I'm good.
Well, I have a long list.
I knew there'd be one.
I'll take everybody's time. No, I just want to say thank you to Pat and Jeff for taking care of the issues with the businesses in our community. I know, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, I received information at work of a place that was in the same situation, flooding, and the employees were seeking someone to help, make a better environment. I know the situation at the local store is not good, especially with the employees not working, but I think the employer needs to be held accountable to make a good place where they want to come to work, where they're not freezing. I mean, if it's cold enough for the pipes to burst, it's cold enough for employees to be working. And I think that's a good message to send, and I hope that we can continue on making sure that, as much as we can, that the facilities where our community members work are safe for them. I would not want to be working in a freezer. That definitely not. And I just want to add that I'm very thankful. I think this council we have many different opinions. We have very hard-set opinions, including myself, and separate issues, but I think conversations are good. We are able to speak up, we're able to understand each other, and tonight was an example of that, and I'm very proud to be part of that. And hopefully in future events or council meetings, I am able to as well understand other people's opinions and where they come from. Just like everybody else is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just changed subject here a little bit. I think the city and the chamber has got a lot of great projects that they're working on this year, and I'm looking forward to it. And I believe we can get a lot accomplished. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And from the mayor's comments or report, we just finished a terrific holiday season, Christmas and New Year's, both a big thing, with families gathering and all kinds of fun. But in talking in our department head meeting today, I realized all of New Year's Eve and probably quite a bit of the Christmas holiday altogether was spent by our public workers fixing the things that weather had damaged or hurt or ruined. They were out all through the New Year's Eve and the next day on dealing with buildings that had broken pipes and water pouring out the ceiling and filling up the basements. It was an astounding sacrifice of what we would all think of as a very private right that we have to celebrate our national holidays. They were out there making sure we could. And I cannot express enough appreciation for those young men and all they did in public works to help those who had just had real disasters. I guess a natural disaster is a water pipe in Goldendale. And I'm just hoping mine don't thaw out and I find I'm in the same boat.
That's what you know.
But they sacrifice so much for us and give so much for us. And I appreciate that we have them on board. They're a terrific group of people. I have great pride in all of our city employees, our firemen, our policemen, and our public works folks, and these people working in this building. For a mayor, or this mayor in particular, since I've only lived here since 2004, the biggest blessing of serving as a mayor has been to get to know that entire workforce, because they're terrific people. I wouldn't necessarily have known them if I didn't have a fire or commit a crime, which I almost did tonight. But it's every single person on this council that's working with the city have their hearts in the right place for the right goals, and we are really blessed as a community to have that. It shows. It's beginning to show more and more, and that's good. And I'm thankful that I had a chance to experience some of that. With that, we need to go to our open public comment. This is for topics other than what's on the agenda. Is there anyone here for public comment? Or on the line, on the Zoom and telephone line? Anyone with comments? Certainly come up. 3 minutes, and that's going to be tough.
3 minutes, okay. My name is Mindy Jackson, and I recently returned to the Goldendale community. I am, as of today, the new executive director at the Goldendale Chamber of Commerce. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for helping to fund the efforts there. I rejoined the chamber in September under strategic planning and communications, and I am so excited about the people that are on the board of directors. I'm excited about the committees that have formed and are supporting the different activities in the community. I'm excited for the events that are happening, and it's really a wonderful season to be returning back to Goldendale. So I just wanted to stand up and say thank you. Also to just ask if you have any questions. I will be presenting more information later this month regarding what our programming will be for the year and also some of the initiatives. But do you have any questions for the chamber at this time?
Council, any questions? We usually get this in.
It's an open door. But you only got 3 minutes. Well, less than 3 minutes now. Anyway, but I did want to just say thank you. So
Congratulations.
if there's no comments or things, I'll just thank you.
Thank you, and thank Nicole for all the work that she's put in as executive director.
It has been a joy.
With that, we have one more piece of business to do. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moving and seconded to adjourn city council for January 3rd, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody bold enough to say no? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.